All right, here's part 2 of the StewMac 2 King boost build. Excuse me. So we're going to pick up right where we left off. This next step here is we got some wire that we're going to cut into little lengths here. You have to do 6 pieces as 2-inch sections and then 9 1-inch sections. So you can measure this out, or you can just kind of guesstimate it. You want to make sure you're kind of accurate though, because you don't want to shortchange yourself. So I do apologize if you hear some background noise. This is prime time at the residence. The family's upstairs doing stuff. The toddler is doing toddler things. The teenager is doing teenager things. And the mom is doing mom things. And dad is down here in the basement building a pedal and recording a video. So I'm cutting wire here. I'm sorry, I'm not paying attention to the back of my phone here that I'm recording with, and I should be, so I can make sure that I'm in frame here. So just kind of getting them close. They'll all get trimmed accordingly here when we plug them in. I think I'm at 8 here now. This should be 9. Should be, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right. Now, this shows you soldering all of these wires on the board here, and then you'll add the second part of your breakout board. So just to do it like the instructions, we'll do it that way. But if I recall from the last one I built, I did not do it that way. And then it calls for 2-inch sections here. I mean, you could just kind of guess it if you wanted to. If you wanted to get real precise, you could get in your box and you could get out calipers. Where in the hell am I? Oh, you could use one of these handy gauges here. You could go, oh, okay. Here we are. Here's our millimeters. It's about 25 millimeters to an inch. So these pieces here are a little bit longer. I kind of just guesstimate it. It's a little long, I'm not too worried. I can cut it to length. And if it's too short, well, the good news is I happen to have a shop and I have a lot of wire here. So if you don't have wire on hand, you probably want to be a little bit more careful. And the one thing I've noticed with the StewMac kits is they are not very generous with the wire, which, I mean, I guess if you're following the instructions, you don't need to be. Get our handy dandy strippers here. So it says the 2-inch sections are going to connect here. So these are going to go to your jacks, your power source, and then the 1-inch connections are what's going to connect the two boards together. So we're in the final stretch here. This should not take as long as the first video did. And if it does, oh well, we'll be okay. The purpose of this was to pretty much show you from the get-go, start to finish, how to do one of these pedal kits and not have to be intimidated by the process. So there is an option on YouTube. I use this feature. I find when a video is going too slow and I don't like it, you can speed up a video. You can watch 1.25 or 1.5 speed. So that is an option for you there if I am droning on too long. And conversely, also, that tool is very good for when you're trying to learn a new song and say you're a little bit stumped on one of the parts. You can slow the video down and learn the song that way. I've definitely done that more than one time. More than once, for sure. The real fun will be, does this thing work once I finish it? Most of the time, if you have malfunction, it's something simple. You bridged a solder joint, or you didn't observe polarity on something. If you don't observe polarity on your diodes, sometimes you'll cook it, sometimes you won't. On your capacitors, oftentimes you do some damage. Now, you don't have to do this from the top like I did. I will touch them up on the bottom. I do this for convenience sake. Two more here. Where's my strippers? These guys here, they go to the DC socket. Now, something you could do, if you so chose, you could use different color wire for the different connections. So you have the positive, you want it to be red. You have the negative, maybe you want it to be blue or purple or green or whatever the hell color you like. The thing is, when you're looking at these, okay, the wire doesn't know what color it is. Last I checked, wires weren't self-aware. And electricity doesn't know what color wire it's flowing through. So, as long as you know where you're putting your items, you're going to be fine. So here we are. Like I said, it's not necessary to do it from the top. I did it for the sake of convenience. Cut these ends. Oh, also last night when we finished up, I did not cut the capacitor leads off. So we'll just cut them too. I'm sure you can hear my toddler up there. I think he's harassing his big brother. So cut these. Again, forgive me, this is difficult working with your hand under a phone. Try not to block your view. Okay, so these are those wires there. Now, for this step, with the little 1-inch wires, my advice would actually be, if you had other wire, to cut them a little long and then trim them all to the same length, because it's a little bit more critical here. Not critical, it's a pain in the ass to line everything up. So strip them before. You can see you're not working with a lot there. I mean, when you strip, you know, a 1/4 inch or so off the end, you can run into some issues with a small piece. On some wire, you could actually pull the wire through the insulation, and then you're left with a piece of bare wire, and then, well, then you need a new piece of wire. But so far with this StewMac stuff that they're using, I haven't had any issues pulling the wire through on a short run. You'll notice that pretty common. Say you're working on stereo work or something like that. You have shielded cable. Sometimes that aluminum in there, when you're pulling a piece, it just, I guess it's more slick. There's less friction holding it in place. So, all right, back to this. Alexander's up there having a ball. He's been working on colors and numbers. It's quite cute. All right, final stretch of these wires getting stripped. And some of these wires, they might get trimmed a little bit. I actually like to have the input ones a little long, on most of these kits. That way, if I need to do any work, it's less of a pain in the rear end. And there's nothing super secret going on off camera here. It's just I'm not paying attention to where I'm holding these. So my advice for this step, because you can line all these up, I'm going to show you. We're going to see if we get lucky here. We're going to see how we can do this. This is a frustrating step because if you mess this up, it gets a little wonky on you. Now, if you notice some of these wires are a little bit longer than the others, and that's okay. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the shortest one that's stripped, and I'll cut the other ones to that length. And you'll see why here in a minute. You want them all the same. So we're just going to go like this. Now, one of the things that I'll say here, this is your friend right here, because as soon as you flip this board over with those pieces, and even some of them are still trying to do it, so just make sure they're all seated. We're going to kind of work at an angle. So we have the tape working for us, and we have gravity working for us. We have one of these that kind of poked back through a little bit. There we go. And our first one did it. As you can see, this is a tedious step. So I go right here. Now, you can tin these wires beforehand if you want to. I have found with these kits that it's not necessary. Some of the wire I use for my other projects is actually pre-tinned. But for this here, it's going to do just fine. Okay, now our first one got a little wonky once we moved that, so we're going to go just like this. Okay, so my advice right here is do not cut your ends yet. The reason you're not going to is because we're going to cut these to the proper length. See, this guy here is a little shorter. And when we cut them, obviously, we might have to strip some more off. And we don't want to have an issue where we're left with not enough wire. Like I said, for me, it's easy. I just reach up on the thing, grab more wire, I'm good to go. But if you're following along with this kit and you haven't done one before, maybe you don't have any extra wire at home. Actually, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that small one out, and I'll just replace it now. I'm not going to fight it. So we're going to go just like this. Right here. A little grabby grab. Make sure I'm getting the right one. That guy's out. Go right to the hole I was at. This will just feed right in. A little bit of solder. Okay, so remember what I said. We want to have these roughly the same length. Well, that little scrap piece I used was a bit longer. So we want the stripped end to be about to here. Cut that much off. Move this. There's an expression. It's like, if the idea is stupid, but it works, it's not stupid. Now, if you were real anal, you would measure all these out perfect and beautiful, all that good stuff. But in this case here, we're just going to get it close. Okay. I'm going to replace this one right here just the same as I did that other. I'll cut it to length. Maybe if I can feed it in. Should probably get over top of it and look. And looking at it, this wire is pre-tinned. So there you go. There's my comment. Just like the other one, cut it to the stripped end, be about the same height. Pull this right here. Okay, so now these wires, they're going to go like this. They're going to loop over to the board. Okay, now the book here shows you a little tip. You can tape it, and that's what we did for the other step. So now you'll see this, the board says this side down. Okay, well, what do they mean? Do they mean down to the floor, or do they mean down, but then when you flip it over, it'll be up in the pedal? And I'll show you. So when you look a couple pages ahead, you'll see the battery snap hole is here. The component side of this board is this way. So you can use this as your reference. Now, if you're still confused, I'll show you. This is inside another one. This is the one I showed you before at the beginning. So the part that says this side down faces the top of the pedal case. The battery snap is on your left, and your components are facing up towards the bottom of the case here. So I'll just hold that for a second so you can get a reference. So it's going to go like this. Now this is the fun part. And the trick I used, I'll show you. When I did it, I think this is how I did it. I've done it with one or two of the other ones I've done. So that's how I do it. So this is what your build should look like by this stage. And you see, by keeping the wires mostly accurate in the size, you get a really nice loop there. So Since that's all dried, we didn't have any boogering up. I didn't rip anything out, stripping the wires, even cutting a couple pieces of wire. We didn't have any issues, so I can cut all these. Okay, I like how they all look. So, excuse me. This is the fun part. We're out of the circuit board holder and we're going to use the pedal case. So, it's important here. Let me get some of this crap out of my way. Get this out of our way. You need to identify your potentiometers and make sure you have the correct ones. So here's our circuit, here's our case. This tells us locate the 6 pots. Okay. So you have 6 pots. These two are going to be the same, I bet. These are both B100Ks. Let me check my footage here. Okay. These two here, this is an A20 or A100. This is a B25, this is a B25, so this is going to be an A100. On potentiometers, there's an indexing tab sometimes. It pops right off. It's super easy. You just get your little pliers, come here, pops off. For this build, you're going to remove those. It's super easy. Now, in the instructions, I'll show you here, if any of the tone pots do not have a plastic cap, attach adhesive foam to insulate the back of the pot from the soldered leads of the other parts of the PCB. I'll show you quickly here, in the one I did before, there's one there, and I don't know why in the hell I did it. I think I must have lost one of the pads, and I ended up cutting up a guitar pick to put in. So any of that will work. They give you, unless I misplace them, there they are. They give you a pack of these to do just that. So get my razor blade, we'll cut them open. I'll show you. It's super easy. So it's just this 2-sided foam. You go here, pull one out. Easy as pie. One of the things I like about the StewMac kits is the components seem to be pretty good quality. Alpha pots are pretty good. Switchcraft jacks are good. So I'm a fan of that. Oh, sugar, I put that on the wrong one. That's probably what happened the last time. That's why I had to use a guitar pick. I wasn't paying attention. I was busy talking. All right, so they're all in. Get this out of here. Move this to the side. One of the biggest pains in the rear end when you're working on any of this stuff is just keeping a clean work area. Makes it easier. That way you're not picking stuff up with your hands. So sometimes you'll see me do that, and then you'll hear me take a couple footsteps away, and that's just me walking over to the garbage can. I purposely don't put the garbage can right at the bench. Just a way to get up and get extra steps during the day. Okay, so locate your pots, and then you're going to use the case to help you set them up. Also, I should have said this, take your nuts and washers off. Should have said that before, I'm sorry. You'll have to get a refund for your admission here. So an A100K goes right there. You're probably thinking, what in the hell are we doing here? And all this is doing, you're using the case as a holder so you can solder the components into place. It's just another way to do it. You don't have to do it, but it makes lining up the holes with the case a lot easier. So my advice is to do it this way. Where's our B100K? These are the drives. There was a misprint in the, I think I mentioned this last night, there was a misprint in the instructions on these kits. So if you have one from 2023, it likely has the misprinted instructions. But I checked, and this, yeah, I did mention it in the first video. This one does have the corrected instructions, so that's good there. All right, so this is pretty easy. Now, the instructions tell you that you can temporarily attach the pots and the foot switch to the pedal housing to keep things steady for soldering them to the board. I don't do that. I just line it up and then solder it. So what's going to happen here is this is going to sit over top of this, and all it is just an exercise in lining these up. So go here. Also, double check your feet here. I see if these are a little bit bent, it's not a big deal. You can just bend them back. So check that. Also make sure you have the correct values in the correct spots, and they're labeled. It's not too difficult. He says as he can't line the damn thing up. Get under this here. There's a little bit of sneezing going on upstairs. I wonder if they've contracted whatever it is, that congestion that I seem to be having fun with here. Look at that. We're all lined up. Okay. When I do the potentiometers, I like to do, because you're going to apply a pretty good amount of heat and a pretty good amount of solder, I like to do a leg at a time on each one. It's not necessary. It's just how I do it. That way, if there's a little bit of heat, gives it time to get off there. And with these potentiometer legs, they can take more heat. It's thicker metal. Just personal preference. You don't have to do it that way. Again, if it's stupid but it works, is it really stupid? I'm assuming that most of the folks watching this will be watching from the United States. I have seen some folks build some of these in the United Kingdom, but I don't know StewMac's distribution in other areas. There's my teenager yelling. The toddler likes to do this scare thing where they pretend to scare each other. There he is doing it again. There's the young one running around. Okay, so all I'm doing here, I'm just going to square up a little bit of this. Not a big deal. Easy peasy. All right, so there we are. This is this step here. So now it says, lay the PCB breakout board component side up over the pots. So we did that. Now, the foot switch shaft, you can use this. It helps stabilize if you wanted to do it that way. I didn't do it that way. So now, let's put the foot switches in. Pretty easy. Here. And just like with the potentiometers, when I do the foot switches and I solder them in place, I like to do some of it like one, go to the next, back and forth, because these hold heat for a pretty good amount of time. Now, it's foolproof how you do this. Just set this here the same as we did the other side, like that. And this is going to go just like so. Now I want to tell you the reason why we have it set this way and why the switches aren't turned the other way. So when you have the pedal assembled, when it's completely assembled and all that, this will flip over. The potentiometer the potentiometer shafts will come through the top of the pedal. When these are flipped over, then you want these to come through the top of the pedal. So that's why that's the way it is. So if you make a mistake, it's not a big deal, but it is a giant pain in the butt to unsolder 9 connections on a switch that you're trying not to damage with too much heat. So just my advice, read the instructions if you don't know what you're doing. Also, when I solder the switches, I put more solder than you would, say, a resistor or something. The joint can handle it. There's more surface contact. And this is the part of the pedal that's going to receive the most contact. You know, your feet are going to be stomping on it and all that fun stuff. Should probably check and make sure I'm still in frame. Yep. Okay. Now on some other pedal kits that other companies do, instead of it being a breakout board that you'll solder the switch to, you'll actually use the solder lugs on the switch, and you'll use wire. What this breakout board does is it's taking that step out for you. It's making it that much easier for you to build this kit with a little less experience. As you saw, the cutting wire step was a pain in the ass. You know, it took a while lining everything up. And if you're new to this, doing a switch, it's just another place for error. Now I'm just going to lift this out of the camera view. I want to look at the joints. Make sure there's enough solder on all of them. Like I said, with a switch, I like to make sure there's a lot. Oh, this here, it looks burnt. That's just flux that cooks off. Don't be alarmed. So what the flux does, without boring you too much, it helps clean, and it helps the contacts adhere to each other. So this step's done. Now we get this battery snap. So you can feed it through thusly. It says, with the, getting camera here, I'll show you. This is what a finished one looks like. So the wire goes here, underneath, and then you do a little loop. And that's to keep it, so if you pull it, you don't pull it completely out. So you do the loop when you're on the other side of this, right here. Feed under. Let's face it, most of us aren't going to be using the battery anyway. So give yourself a little bit of room so you can get your battery in and out. That just helps with strain relief. This comes under here, and this will go to your power source. Okay, so that's mainly all of that. Our next step here, I'm gonna look really dumb because I remember doing this before and it was a pain in the ass. There's a couple of the kits that lining up the LED is a bit of a pickle. If you look at some of the StewMac reviews, some of the people in the comments, they'll give their advice for easier ways to do it. So I'm going to make a modification to mine. I'm not going to use white and red. I'm going to use white and blue. So these are our little holders for the LEDs. In these, there's a nut, a bezel, and a lock washer. So when you do this, here's this guy here. I'll move this to the side for a second. You pop these guys right through. On this side here, lock washer, and then your nut. You don't have to get too wild with it if you don't want to. Get my box here. Oh, not deep enough. Not deep enough. That's no good. Hold on 1 second here. No, it's not that it's not deep enough. It tells you to use a 3/8, and guess what? It's not 3/8. They lied to us. There we are. Okay, so that's those. Now what you'll do, like I said, I'm making a modification. I'm using blue LED. I don't know, maybe blue and white, blue and red. I'm not sure. That's a decision. Let's see if the blue's even long enough to reach that board. Well, that's going to be close. My decision might be made for me. Let's see here. Line up all 9,000 of these holes. Oh, okay, we're going to be fine. I'm going to screw it up, but we're going to be fine. So then the next step, you take this guy here. You just feed it through. Oh, and you want to make sure there's two ends on an LED. I talked about this on other diodes and on capacitors. So on other diodes that aren't LEDs, there's a stripe that indicates it. And on LEDs, there's usually a flat side, but there's a longer leg. And the longer leg is the positive, the shorter leg is the negative. So imagine your pedal kit is in the case here, okay? And I think I was out of camera when I showed this, so I'll do this again. The longer leg is positive, the shorter leg is negative. Now, I have to get this real close to the camera here. These are the holes where the LED will go. There's A and K, anode, cathode. I know it's K and cathode spelled with a C, but that's just the way it is in this nomenclature. All right, and what you want to do is you want to make sure that your LED legs line up the proper way. The anode is the positive, the cathode is the negative. So the longer leg will be on the inside on this side here, and it'll be on the inside here. So you're not going to go with both in the facing the same direction. The longer leg will be in towards the center of your circuit board. I wanted to make a point to mention that. So we're going to use these little plastic plugs here. Remember, longer leg towards the center. And to say that this has been a mild headache is a bit of an understatement. So I was recording before, my phone died, I had to charge that up, so that was fun. And then I went to do a test, and the pedal didn't work. And it's like, okay, why didn't the pedal work? Well, the pedal didn't work because I'm silly. So I'm going to show you what I did wrong, and just some tips to finish this build up. I have to look and see exactly how much video I lost, because I'll have to record just, I guess, a video of me explaining what happens during those parts. So the issue that I ran into when I got to the end of my build, I go, okay, I'm going to test this out and see what's going on. And I put power to it, and I could get one of my LEDs to light, but not the other one. Okay, why not? Check for shorts. I can't find anything too apparent. And I get my meter, I go to the jacks, and this is where I made a stupid mistake. I had the tip and the ring reversed on the output, and I'm sorry, the sleeve and the tip reversed. So that created a ground situation with no signal off or on. Tried it with battery, with power. I did not even think to check the stupid jack. That's just, I'm better than that. I'll just put it that way. I should know better. Let me reword that. I should know better. So a couple tips with this. I ended up changing the LED colors. I don't particularly like red LEDs. I don't see color properly, so it probably has something to do with it. And I put the blue on the left side and the white on the right side. That's personal preference. But when you get to this stage where you have everything ready to button up, you adjust trim pots and you adjust dip switches, and you'll do this to get some different sounds. And I actually should record a video because I have that second one that I showed you in the beginning of this video and in the other video that I built. I did the low gain option, and I don't think I actually adjusted the trimmers on that at all. So it'd be neat to compare, you know, low gain versus a high gain side, and mess with the dip switches, and maybe I could do that with a little JHS switchback. But anyway, let me get this battery out of here. I was using the battery for testing, and something handy that you can put together yourself. These are pretty cheap to make. I just had the gosh darn thing out, and now I can't find it. There it is. I just took a battery snap to a center negative, so you can test DC sockets or your battery snaps. I don't know, just a 9-volt way to check stuff out. So anyway, what I had done wrong, I flipped the sleeve and the tip. Any other time, I think I would have caught that as soon as I did it. But what I was concerned with was when I took the guts out to check for another problem, even though the problem was right here, I got some pass-through signal. So I didn't think the jack, I was thinking that what I had done was I had shorted out one of the potentiometer connections. So I actually removed all 6 of the potentiometers, and that's a pain in the ass on this style. And then I put them back in. After verifying I didn't fry them. I didn't lift any signal traces, thank goodness. Usually that happens. Also, one of the other issues I had was when I was getting the LEDs to line up, I had pushed the one LED to go into the bezel. And when I did that, the LED legs bent and shorted out, so that's why the LED didn't work. Figured that out, put it back together, still no sound. Okay, now I'm getting irritated and I'm about ready to bounce this thing off the wall. And I don't know what made me do it, but I got the book and I followed along. And I go, okay, yeah, I did that step right, I did that step right. And I go, I don't think this is right. Why did I put this way? Oh wait, I put it that way because I was on the section that if you have a DC only model, this is the DC or battery. So I flipped the page to here, and that's how I installed it by accident. When I was looking, I go, wait a minute. The jack that's to the left of the power is up. And I turned the page, and immediately the error of my ways was spotted. So I continued, put her back together. It doesn't indeed work. I do have signal through there, and I'll let you see that I have that here in a second. I'll turn this amp on. Now mind you, this is just an iPhone recording, and let's see here, get our DC power. I'm going to put the knobs on there too. Don't worry, that wasn't a bomb. That was the dryer. So you can see my LEDs work. Okay, let's get this cable, and we'll just button this up here real quick. But I do want to show you that it does indeed work, that I did indeed solve the problem, that it's, I guess I was overconfident in myself that I had actually done this properly when I clearly did not. So, go like this, and get our guitar pick. And I'm actually curious to see where my video cut off before. So this is the pass-through. That channel has a little bit of dirt on it. Let's roll that back, roll the volume up. Now these knobs are pretty much all the way up. So I'm going to turn the volume to about middle and drive about middle here. That's a true single coil there. It's a Fender Strat, and I'm right by the amp. So same thing. Then we'll go to the other side here. That volume should be about half. That drive should be about half, and that tone should be about half. So So there you have it. It works. Oh man, I did not expect this second video to be as long as it was. I'm kind of afraid to look and see when my phone died, because I was right around the 2-hour mark when I was trying to troubleshoot what the hell was wrong with it. So that's going to be all for this. I'm going to put the knobs on it, and I'll do a full sound video on it, you know, with actual microphone interface, all that good stuff. Okay, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I appreciate you sticking around, and hopefully I don't have to narrate too much of what happens in the middle from where we died out. Hopefully a lot of my frustration died out because there was some swearing there. So I guess before you go, final tips. It is actually easier to use the nuts on these. So when you put the potentiometers in the case to line up the PCB, it actually is easier to use the nuts to hold them in place. So that's what I did the second time. Follow your instructions properly, check your connections. The LEDs, they're probably the trickiest part, getting them to line up. But other than that, it's a pretty straightforward build. And if you do run into trouble, you more than likely did something silly like I did, and then you didn't take into account that you would make a simple mistake. So that's it. Put the knobs on and call it a day. All right, thanks.